Okay, it is recording, so we'll have this as well for anyone who's missed tonight's career talk. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay, and remember, we're also on Instagram Live. All right, so good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining our Leaders Recognizing Leaders kickoff event. We are back with our career talk, and we have a special guest today. My name is Taylor Pittman, and I am the Vice President here at Leaders Recognizing Leaders, as well as your host for this evening's event. And before we begin, I just want to let everyone know this is recorded. But our special guest tonight is Miss Courtenay Rogers. Courtenay Rogers is an operations and technology executive with more than a decade of experience leading brand building efforts for organizations across multiple industries. She's not afraid to make good trouble and is inspired daily by her 14-year-old daughter to make this world a better place. Good Trouble is inspired by Congressman John Lewis, and I quote, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never, ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." She has served as a director of Pathway Women's Business Center, a program empowered by the Small Business Administration that provides training, mentoring, and business development opportunities for entrepreneurs at all stages of business. Prior to that, she was the Director of Business Development and Client Experience at Cabbage Design, as well as Marketing Coordinator for Bone McAllister Norton PLLC. She later served numerous clients in the healthcare, transportation, retail, and nonprofit space as a marketing and business development consultant. We thank Ms. Rogers for joining us this evening to talk about her inspiring work in her industry. But before we begin, I do want to briefly mention that the chat box will be open, so please feel free to ask any questions you may have, and we will do our best to get through as many as our time permits. So without further ado, that was already an amazing biography. So I'm so excited to have you here, Ms. Courtenay Rogers. So how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I still, at almost 45 years old, giggle when someone reads my bio. I'm like, wow, I've done some cool stuff.
You have, absolutely. And that's the feeling that you should have, especially as an accomplished woman. And I would be amazed to see a lot of our young leaders in the chat also work towards building up their resume and their biography. So thank you.
Absolutely.
So I would like to begin by asking you if you could speak on some of the work that you're currently doing and what the role of an operations and technology executive consists of.
Absolutely. So I started my own company 2 years ago. It was 2 years on August 1st. And you can tell I've got a lot of interesting experience. I've bounced around in the tech world and the marketing world. But what I realized a couple years ago is that I love doing operations. I like keeping all the trains on the track and then thinking about what possibly could go wrong and coming up with a plan B and a plan C. So that's what really drove me to go out on my own, is because I also realized a lot of people don't like to do the operations. A lot of people don't like the monotony of standard operating procedures or processes and procedures, but I actually started my career in the military.
Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. I was a naval officer. So I graduated from the University of Mississippi, and I was commissioned as a naval officer and served on a guided missile destroyer. And that's where I learned a lot about processes and procedures and how important they are. And so I finally just realized I only wanted to do what I like to do, which is a really awesome feeling. I'm good at marketing. I didn't love it. I'm good at biz dev. I didn't love it. I love operations. And so I decided to start my own company doing operations. So people hire me because they're worried or they're working on their business, and they hire me so that I can help them establish the really important foundation of their business. So what are your processes? What are your procedures? What tools are you using? Are you using the right tools? It's all the really important stuff that I think a lot of people kind of forget about. And so they bring me on. I'm a consultant, so I get to pick my own clients, which is pretty awesome. And then I'll build a team. So if it's a larger project, I will go out and I'll find the right team members. We'll all come together, and then they work for me, and they're basically consultants for me.
You've actually gotten me thinking about going into this career. That is so awesome.
Yes.
So I do have one question. Would you say that your experience being in the military kind of helped with that critical thinking background?
I think it did. What's interesting about the military is that they kind of tell you what to think, right? It is very structured, and it's based on, hundreds of years of rules. But you're always trying to think, how can I do something better? Or how can I take care of my people in a better way? How can I use technology better? So I do think it instilled a nice basic process thinking. Whenever someone has an idea or a concept, I'm always thinking how, which cannot always be the right way, because I jokingly say I'm like the dream killer in a brainstorming session, because I'm like, well, how would you do that? Because I'm such a how person.
But we do need people like that.
You do. So it's really important to be part of a group, because you've got to have the visionaries and the big dreamers, and then, break it down into small tasks. But yes, I definitely learned a lot of that at a young age in the Navy.
Absolutely. Wow. I did want to also highlight something amazing that you said, is that you wanted to do something that you genuinely loved. So how did you go about finding out that this is what I really enjoy?
Yeah, because I'm talking to young folks, I'm going to be super honest with you. A lot of it is trial and error. And then there are also times in your life where you might want to do something, but the bills are saying that you need to do something else.
Yeah.
So I have definitely done my fair share of different types of jobs. And I do think it's really important that you try it. And it's totally, absolutely okay if it's not something that you love, right? Get a little bit of experience under your belt, build up your resume, and then go find something else. So it took me a little while. It took me probably 3 different kind of big jobs to figure out that what I am great at and where I excel are the operations and logistics. The great thing, you mentioned that I was the director of the Pathway Women's Business Center. So part of my job when I was in that role was helping women start and grow their businesses across the state of Tennessee. So I learned a lot about how to start a business. So even though I wasn't an entrepreneur at the time, the skills that I was teaching other people, when it came time to go out on my own, I felt very confident because I knew how to do it, because I had been teaching people how to do it for a couple of years.
That is amazing. Like, coming from not necessarily having that traditional background, which actually leads to my next question. Let's say students just wanted to go straight into a career in operations. Would you say that they need a high school diploma, an associate's or bachelor's degree, or even post-secondary education?
Yeah, it's going to totally depend on the type of company you want to work for. I would
Okay.
also like to say, if you work for yourself, you can start a business. You don't need any formal education. You need, depending on the state you live in, it's probably a couple $100 to get a business license and get going that way. I do think if you're looking to get into operations, a sub job would be like a project manager or a program manager, and that would be a great entry level. And I think you could absolutely find an entry level job with a high school degree, or maybe even an associate's degree. If you're trying to come in as a director or higher, I would definitely recommend having your bachelor's. I'd say about a decade ago, I thought maybe I should go back and get my master's, and I just realized I can figure out what I need to do. I didn't want to go into debt to get a master's degree, but I feel like more and more companies are they're getting smarter in their hiring, and they're realizing just because somebody doesn't have the initials after their name doesn't mean that they're not a good hire. So I would say don't let that stop you.
I love that point. And I hope a lot of you guys are hearing that, especially at the stages that we're at in our lives. Right now, I'm a business student in college, working towards my associates right now. And I think a lot of us kind of get scared, like, oh, I don't have the money for it right now. And there's nothing wrong with going back to school. But I just love that point that you brought up, because I do know that there's some young people here that are starting their businesses that are just straight out of high school and trying to figure it out. So what a
Do it.
great point.
Do it.
Thank you for that answer.
Yes.
So what are the best and most challenging parts of your job?
The best part of my job is that I pick my clients. And I very clearly say that I serve underrepresented small business owners. And so that's going to fall into the category of women business owners, minority business owners, veteran business owners. I don't want to help rich people get richer. I want to help people change the world. So I get to pick my clients, which means I love working with these folks because they are the exact type of people I want to be around. So that's the best part. The hardest part is probably accurately scoping out a project. So someone says, I need you to do all of these things, right? If I've done them before, I know generally how many hours or how much time that would take me or somebody else. But every once in a while, I blow it on a budget and I end up, not making as much money as I wanted to make. But that is definitely part of the learning process, is figuring out like what your pricing model is, what your tracking is like. And honestly, I probably over service my clients sometimes. And that's something that I'm working on as well. So really just figuring out what that balance is between serving my clients the way that they deserve to be served, but also continuing to make money and so that I can grow and scale my own business.
Absolutely. I love your mission. I love who it's geared towards and what works for you and what your goals are. And definitely, especially as a leader in this industry, I really liked and I wanted to highlight to everyone the part about who you're serving. Because as leaders, we're not, we should be the ones that are serving. That should be the first thing. So I really love that.
Yeah, it's helpful knowing your target audience. Know who you want to serve when you start that business.
Great point. Absolutely. So what keeps you motivated? I think you touched a little bit on that a second ago, but what are some things that keep you motivated?
Seeing visible change keeps me motivated. I think there's times where we start to feel hopeless or, oh my gosh, all this wackiness is happening in the world, or I'm not where I think I need to be in life. And, there's just a lot of uncertainty. But I just think it's really, really important to do what you love and to know that even if you feel like what you're doing right now might not be working, you're working towards something, right? And don't stop. Don't stop when you're working towards something.
Absolutely. Who would you say your biggest role model is?
Okay, so I'm kind of a political dork. In fact, I've run for two local offices. I didn't win either one of them, but I made great change with both efforts. My role model is Elizabeth Warren. And I followed her before she ran for president, when she was a senator, when she first got elected. And I love her mission in life because she is there to take care of people. And she started late in life, right? She didn't become a senator until she was in her 60s. And I think that's a really great reminder that you can make huge pivots in your life at any point.
Absolutely. Oh, wow. That is so true. So I also wanted to ask you, because especially with your job and you working as well in technology, things are constantly changing. We're in this ever-growing global society. So would that lead your job to change often? And if it's so, how do you adapt to that?
I am constantly learning new things. It's one of my most favorite parts about being an entrepreneur. And I am not kidding you. I have learned everything from YouTube University. If I can't figure it out, and if I can't hire someone to figure it out for me, I will go to Google, I will go to YouTube, and there is a video for everything. And my clients think I'm the smartest person because I can solve these problems. And yes, I am smart, but I am much more curious and motivated to find the answers than I am smart, if that makes sense.
I think that's even more important.
It totally is. I would rather hire someone who knows how to find the answer than someone who just automatically has the answer, because those answers are going to change, right?
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
think you're solving a problem a certain way now, it might work now, but that may not work in 6 months to a year. It may not work when technology changes. So you have to
Ve-
always be thinking about, am I using the right tool to solve the problem? And a tool could be a person
mm,
as well. Like, do I have the right team to solve this problem?
Very true. That adaptability factor is so important. And I think some people think, well, if I don't have the intelligence part, if I wasn't naturally gifted with something, like what am I going to do? But you can't hide behind that. A lot of people cannot.
Yep,
And things are constantly changing every single day for all of us. So
absolutely.
yeah, what a great point. Um, Also, let's see. I wanted to ask you if you had any piece of advice for any young person. I know I myself can relate to this, who's watching today, who has aspirations of starting their own business.
Do it. Do it. I wish I had done it before. Um, it can be daunting, right? But again, the internet exists. Literally, Google, how do I start a business in, and fill in the name of your state. And it's going to take you to the website that's going to walk you through all of this. Every place you are is going to have resources that can help you do this. Um, I would say make sure that you're solving a problem that truly needs to be solved with your business. So we hear a lot of people are like, I want to be a whatever, fill in the blank. I want to be the next Facebook. I want to be the next Google. I want to be whatever. And that's great. But you have to figure out how you are different from others. That's your differentiator. So understand the problem that you're solving. So for me, I knew I started my business in the middle of the COVID pandemic from this exact bedroom that I'm on the call with you right now, with a Chromebook and passion, right? That's all I had. And I realized during COVID, people were having to take all of their events from in person to virtual. And I knew how to do that. I figured out how to use Zoom better than anybody could figure it out. And remember, this is when Zoom wasn't cool. Like, people were like, what's a Zoom? So
Yes.
now it's a word that we throw around 10 times a day. But at the time, I figured out how to use Zoom and how to find clients who needed to take events from in person and take them virtual. And I made six figures my first year because I found a
Wow.
problem that needed to be solved.
Wow. And that's so true, actually, the timing of that, because
Yep.
even on our end, it was like we're used to being, in person. And actually, would you say that you've been able to reach more people, or,
Oh,
or your
definitely.
clients have been able to? Wow.
Definitely. And I'll be honest with you, I have clients all over the country, and people are much more comfortable hiring people virtually now because of COVID, right? Like, we're not
Mm.
stuck in offices. We're not, in-person meetings don't have to happen anymore. We realize that we can do almost everything. If you're a doctor, you clearly have to go to work, right? You have to see your patients. But most jobs can be done using technology. And so I was able to work with people who I don't think I would have been able to work with before the COVID pandemic, because they're just not in my state.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
My last question: what are a few qualities that you would look for in someone if you were hiring or if you were working with someone? What is it that you're looking for? So I think a lot of us can kind of get in the let me self-reflect a little bit and work towards being that.
Yes. My number one priority when I'm looking to hire someone, be it a contractor, I'm actually starting to think about hiring, um, honesty. Honesty. And let's just be honest with who you are, be honest with what you believe, and just be very transparent. I love when I'm working with someone and they'll say, that is not something I do. That is so refreshing to me, rather than somebody trying to make it up and say, oh, sure, yeah, I could do that. So I think that's just be yourself, right? Be yourself, be honest be honest about who you are, and bring your true self to the project. I do think it's incredibly important to understand the role that you are applying for. So if you are doing an interview with someone, with a company or whoever it is, make sure you really research who they are and what they do. I can tell when people have not done their research. And then I would also say we kind of touched on this before, somebody who can figure out how to solve a problem I will pay them twice as much money as someone that I have to tell them what to do. So when I hear people say, oh, yeah, I can figure that out, or sure, no problem, I can get that done, that is a sign of confidence and confidence in your ability, and also just confidence that you're going to be a great person to work with, because we're all going to make mistakes. We're all human, right? But you're going to figure out how to solve that problem. And then lastly, I would say don't be afraid of fail. I have failed epically at quite a few things, but every time I have failed, I have learned something about myself, and it has put me on a path that I didn't even know that I wanted to be on. So don't be afraid to go after what you want. And if you don't get it, try again.
Try again. I love that. I really, really love that. Thank you so much. I do want to leave it open these last few minutes for anyone that would like to ask our speaker any questions. You could raise your hand, or you can go ahead and type it in the chat and I can read it out loud. Anyone has any questions? While we're waiting on that, I do want to make mention that in the chat, we have our new website. So please take a look at that, send it out. This is just more information that we'd just like to share with you all, as well as our Instagram. So go ahead and follow to that. But if there are no questions, I like to wait a little bit because I'm just never sure. I don't want to miss anyone.
I'm going to drop my LinkedIn profile in here.
Please do.
If y'all are not on LinkedIn, you need to be. I bet you are, because you are leaders. But find me on LinkedIn. Say that we connected through Leaders Recognizing Leaders. And then if you want to go through my LinkedIn connections, I have quite a few, and maybe there's somebody you want an introduction to, I'd be happy to do that. So one of the reasons I am so successful is because I love meeting new people and connecting new people, which, okay, how hard was it to find clients starting out? This is a perfect segue. It was not hard at all, and it has not been difficult one bit. I have done zero marketing and I've done zero sales, and my schedule is completely full, so much to where I need to hire somebody. And that's because I'm well connected. And being well connected doesn't mean that you're just connected to a lot of people. It means that you have actual relationships with folks. So one really big piece of advice that I would give you when you're starting out is don't ask somebody for help. Ask them how you can help them first, and then see what happens from there.
Absolutely love that. I do see our president, Dr. Ward. Do you have a question? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wanted to say a special thank you so much, Ms. Rogers, for taking the time to come and to connect with the student leaders. I like to think that even when you're reaching one or two, you're already reaching 1,000 minds. And so we just want to thank you so much. So I do have a question for you. So I love your conversation about being engaged. So one of the questions that I have is, how important is showing up? As simple as today, how important is showing up? So can you speak about that for all the young leaders who are in the room? How important is showing up?
That's such an incredible, incredible question. And I'm going to say it's the most important thing. Just show up, just be there. And even if you're not bringing your best self, let's say you just had a heck of a day, right? We all have days. Something's going on in your family life, or you're just not feeling it. If you've told someone that you're going to be there, show up. People that show up and hold their commitments and say yes to being a helper are automatically winning. So, and it's going to make you stand apart. Y'all, so many people don't show up. And adults, I mean, this is not an age thing. A lot of people will say they're going to do something and they don't. And I think I've received some of the kindest compliments from people lately. I ran my second campaign, barely lost, but I made a big difference. And a lot of people said to me, you know what, Courtney, you keep showing up and that's why we believe in you. And I was like, okay, I hear you. And it's really important. Yeah, if you say you're going to do something, unless you're really, really sick or something really bad happens, show up a couple minutes early. And also, bring a friend. If it's something that you could introduce somebody to or expand somebody else's horizons, always think about who you can connect to that opportunity.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. Amazing answers. And we hope to keep in contact with you so that we can continue to further this conversation because it's a very important one. So back to you, Taylor.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for tuning in for this evening session. I hope you all enjoyed today's talk. I absolutely know I did and learned something new. And a big, big, big thank you to our guest speaker, Ms. Courtenay Rogers, for joining us this evening and just giving us so many gems and enlightening advice that I know I'm definitely taking in, and I'm sure a lot of you at home are taking in as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time for this. So please stay tuned for future LRL Career Series events because we will be having some more in the near future. And I hope everyone has an amazing night. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.